Hey everyone, it is Evan here from the Trade Risk on Wednesday, May 22nd. We are intraday right now, and this is our weekly trade ideas video where we bring you some of the names from our watch list, stocks that are holding up well, showing some good relative strength, and ideally are not yet too extended in their move. As always, these videos are powered by our partners over at Investors Business Daily. We're curating ideas from their stock lists. You can get access to their lists with a link in the description of this video. So we have 5 names we're looking at today. We have 3 names from IBD, 2 from our watch list. And, again, these names are always taken in a sort of technical vacuum here. In other words, we're not factoring in market environment. We're just looking at the individual stock kind of bottom-up approach of what the technicals look like. I'm, from a more market perspective here, more hesitant sort of chasing momentum in this choppy phase. That's just me. So for, what I look for in this type of phase is probably more on the support side of things, stocks coming back into support and reversing. And we have a few of those names here today. First, though, is Twitter. Twitter comes from IBD's list. And this one here is quite notable just from today's move because it is intraday right now at the time of recording this. There's still plenty of trading time left. It is already at the 20-day average volume, so it's already eclipsed. It's running a high volume day today, and it is outperforming pretty nicely, 3.5%. But what I think is interesting is just the fact that this gap back here from the earnings day, back from the 23rd, where we kind of opened up at $37 and ran all the way up to 40, we came back down, tested it, and it seemed to have held for now. It did not fill this gap here, and I think with today's kind of high volume thrust back up into this range, we run the potential here for this to just stay open and kind of be this little breakaway runaway stock here as Twitter kind of gets back up and fills this gap and then potentially challenges the 2018 highs. So for me, I like the move off of this, looking for higher prices here. If we start to lose and fall back into this gap, then certainly all bets are off, but it is holding up, showing some good relative strength, and that's the first idea for today. Next up is DFS. This one here, much different name. This is a financial name, and if you're a believer in, if we look at the XLF real quick, we discussed this in our last weekend market recap video, but if you're sort of a believer in financials holding this retest here, if you think that financials can continue to perform, then DFS is one idea where it is a top of the bucket kind of relative strength performer. It hasn't quite broken above its all-time highs, but just notice where it is in relation to all-time highs. It's just off of them, and if we can start moving back above $80 or so, then this one's an interesting name to play for financial exposure. I'd like to see this hold here, and I'm not sure that it's ready yet or today's the ideal entry by any means, but it is a sort of interesting name to pay attention to if you like that financial exposure. Next up is the last one from IBD's, and this is FNKO. So this one here, I believe, is a new one from their list. I haven't seen it, or I don't know much about the stock, but what we can see here is that we've seen a recent kind of surge up in volume over the past couple of weeks as it's made its move back up to sort of multi-month highs, to say the least. And this longer pattern here, you can see there is some technical significance going back into last year, but what we notice here is that this stock has kind of pushed up back up towards this multi-month highs. It's holding up here with a positive MACD, and it is just tightening here. Higher lows, lower highs, consolidating and compressing, and we're looking to see if this will turn into a continuation pattern to break us out to new year-to-date highs, to continue this trend, to continue the relative performance. So for me, above 22.25, 22.30, 22.50, that's when FNKO starts to get interesting. If it rolls over from here, then all bets are off. Wouldn't be too interested in it. Next up are 2 names from our watch list, NUAN. This one here is an interesting one. Another one I didn't know much about the stock or trade it in history, but NUAN here has really been, if we go to the long-term pattern, this has gone absolutely nowhere for multiple years in a row, and this generally gives me pause to trade a stock because if it hasn't gone anywhere in 5 years, I'm more hesitant to sort of jump in and say, yes, this is the time where we're finally breaking out, just because the odds are pretty tough against us. But I wanted to present it here just because the daily daily chart here shows a fairly pent-up story here. After moving higher back on the 9th of May, you can see MACD continues to edge up towards highs. We've really just not given anything back in price. It's just consolidated through time. Volume slowed down a little bit. So this looks pretty pent up to me. If the pressure of the market starts to lift off of this, I think this would be an interesting one to look at as a continuation pattern, maybe for a short-term trade. And then, if you're a believer in the story and you're looking back at this longer term, resistance here that's been very heavy around $19, then, maybe that's a more interesting kind of breakout play on a multi-year basis. But not certainly willing to make those claims at all. Last but not least is DOMO. So this one here showing some nice kind of a nice consolidation, a nice work off of this strong move it saw throughout the course of March and April. It has pulled back. It hasn't quite filled this gap just yet. It is still holding open, and I think that's what's an interesting part about it, is if it continues to stay open here, we're actually getting some positive momentum divergence as well. So for me, this is checking multiple boxes. I like the name. The only downside here is it does report earnings still in a week or two. So you have to keep that in mind and navigate around that. But for me, if this starts breaking above $38 or even $39.50, $40, I like this for trend continuation to the upside. So that is it. That is what we have for this week. 5 names. As always, do your homework on these names. Check those earnings dates. Make sure they fit your strategy, time frame, risks, all that fun stuff. And as always, thank you so much for tuning in and watching every Wednesday for trade ideas just like this. Tune in and subscribe to our YouTube video or follow us on the Trade Risk. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you in the next video update.